All right, welcome all you YouTube listeners. This is going to be an interesting week. We concluded the third quarter, on a wonderful note. As many of you saw, the positions that we've had in our newsletter, Alibaba, we've been talking about Alibaba with lower highs. Remember that weeks ago? We've been talking and touting that. Well, we said goodbye to Alibaba. We placed a trailing stop in, and we did get filled. And for many of you who don't have access to the newsletter, that's part of our advisory service. We've got a boatload of positions on new stuff. We exited a lot of stuff last week, took some profits on partial positions on a lot of stuff, got into half positions on a lot of things, and we're looking to add to trades. One of the trades that we got in last week was Devon Energy, and Devon Energy, we're long only a half. Now, I like to scale in 50-50. A couple things that we have on is a position in Nike, which had earnings today. But we're in at 85 and a half, and I'm looking to add if it dipped to 80-60. So earnings in Nike came in, EPS beat, revenues were a little bit light. It's going to depend on the conference call. It was not an earth-shattering revelation of how they're going to take over the apparel athletic wear industry again. But with the new CEO, we'll see what if they map out a specific game plan. But I believe that you can look at buying somewhere between that 85 and 80. The extended hour, not much is going on, so I wouldn't be chasing it in the extended hour. It's down 3%. In the meantime, we have other trades that we've been watching and following, and I think today, one of the trades that I want to point out to you is we've got weakness coming in. Or at least rotation a little bit. Semiconductors with NVIDIA down today. We had a lot of software. As you can see, I'll just start from the top. We'll work our way down. The Qs generated a PPS sell signal, weakness in the advanced decline. It crossed a zero line on the JP-MIC oscillator indicator. This basically measures with a modified version of the McClellan oscillator. We modified it to reflect shorter moving averages and also a couple parameter changes because the MIC oscillator is based off the NYSE with like close to 1,900 stocks, and we use it for a modified version to look at the NASDAQ 100, which, as most of you know, have 102 stocks in the index. All right. The same could be said with the Dow Jones. What's interesting about the markets overall, just from a top down, even with the bombs in Israel from Iran sending missiles, the market was quite subdued today. And we didn't see a really big acceleration in energy. In 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that would have sent maybe crude oil up $10, and we were up maybe $2, around $70, so not a big change. But I'll get into that in a minute. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, it came in with like an inside range day today, didn't close. We don't have really any meaningful sell signal. What I would suggest is what we're going to see in October is maybe some volatility, but tricky trade range type market action, which means don't sell breakdowns and don't buy breakouts. It's going to be kind of a tough trade. Higher opens lead to lower closes. One of the indicators that we also use in our live trade room is, and I'll go through these positions with you in just a minute, is the volatility VXX ETF, or it's an ETN, actually, an exchange traded note. The one of the rarities that we've seen is this is what we call a candlestick is a benchmark candle, a Marabuzzo. Midpoints act as support, and certainly in an hourly chart today it did. It also did something we haven't seen, which typically it opens higher, trades lower. And we've now started to define people taking a little bit more constructive protection, and that's what the VXX represents, protection and downside puts in the SPY. Volume is also something we look at rather than looking at the VIX, because we can mirror, it's a tradable instrument. We can see if there's participation in volume, looking at the on-balance volume trend. So it does seem that people are looking at a little bit of volatility or downside action in the SPY. Where would that come from? My guess is maybe perhaps some of the NASDAQ 100 and MAGA 8 names. And here's what I wanted to share with you guys, which was interesting. No one really considers the software application names a big deal, but Super Micro which did a 10-for-1 split. It's now a $40 stock instead of 400. But Adobe down. I don't know if it's going to get a lot of attention today, but Adobe down. That's a kind of a big move, almost 3% downside moves, $14. Next support I got is probably around 471. My guess is the market takes out the the week of the August 9th. Remember that August 5th debacle with Japan, and we probably dig into a little bit lower levels in Adobe. We also saw, I don't know, other favorites in technology names. I don't know, it's a car ride share, but Uber was lower. And here's on a solid note, we saw again some of the software companies down: Snowflake, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, and cybersecurity. Fortinet generating. All these are new, fresh daily sell signals, which gives me the impression we'll see some further weakness. Amazon, real quick, not supporting its rallies, but Google, on the other hand, it is kind of supporting the rally. It's moving in the opposite direction of most of the magnificent eight names, so to speak. Apple, APPL. Let's go with Apple, or AAPL. Let's try that symbol one more time, person. Daily sell signal was down $7 today, 3%. But volume wasn't that fantastic on the downdraft. But it'll take maybe another day or two to really maybe muster some bears to kind of maul some of the bulls, so to speak. If we get another day, a higher open preceded by a lower close, a daily close below 222. It's a major support zone. It's an old high. It's this pivot support zone. My guess is we go right back to 215-ish, and that would weigh in on the cues, explaining why the NASDAQ 100 is showing some relative weakness. Boeing, bad news for Boeing. But here's the funny thing. Bad news didn't make the market go down. Boeing has a lot of contract dispute problems with their labor. They have also, again, their plane building department has a couple problems, not to mention, doors falling off planes and things of that nature, FAA investigations, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing that they do is they also make missiles, and that's one thing that we're seeing fly in the Middle East, lots of missiles. I'm not saying that Boeing's directly the responsible for the manufacturing, but what I can tell you this: when bad news hits a stock and the market goes up, it's probably baked in. What was the bad news? There was rumors that they're looking to raise $10 billion by offering diluting share stock, and maybe they have to sell a convertible note, and that was a rumor. Now, they also got a contract by U.S. Air Force for $7.5 billion. Now, Air Force, when they give you money, it ain't to build a commercial jetliner 737. They're probably, again, that missile building element. Is that connect carry the stock? I will say this, that we noticed that the November 15th expiration, someone was doing quite a large size of the 170, 175 bull call spread. So that's, if there is a recovery over the next few weeks, those are cheap options that someone was looking and going through, not just the month of October, but also getting through the election. And that puts you back, if you get up to 175, that puts you back to where you were August 23rd. So it was interesting to note that there was some interest to the upside in Boeing. Bad news, it rallied off of a person's pivot monthly S1 at that 148 and change number. While volume's not phenomenal, it was not bad either. If you notice and I'll expand this chart real quick with Boeing, the volume was starting to uptick in the last couple days. So while it's been choppy and chewy, I would watch for a daily breakout above 157, and that would give me a little bit more reasonable confidence that we probably can at least fill a gap at 169. If not, maybe someone taking a little bit of directional delta on that option with that much time, which we would consider theta. So anyway, something to consider there. We definitely saw an uptick out of aerospace defense company like a Curtiss-Wright, for example, broke out to a newer high. Lockheed Martin, LMT. They make weapons, and there's a need for weapons, right? So with all the missiles being lobbed into Tel Aviv and all the Tel Aviv Iron Dome missiles shooting down the said incoming missiles from Iran, all that military arsenal needs to be replaced, and someone's going to have to build it, and someone's going to get paid to do it. So that's why the interesting aspect of the timing of this is interesting because here's why. Typical sector seasonality in the month of October dictates that aerospace and defense is a very good seasonal trend on average. Transportation's another one, healthcare, and even casinos. So it's ironic that we see the movement in some of the casinos like Las Vegas Sands due to China. Today, by the way, like I said, we were long in Alibaba from down in here at this 80 level, and we trailed the stop and we got bumped out yesterday. So we took a nice profit. We didn't buy the absolute low. I didn't sell the absolute high, but we took a big chunk of this, and we've been sharing that with you in YouTube. From here on out, I think it makes sense to look at maybe a rotation into a little bit of energy. One stock I like is Devon. There's a couple reasons. A, its PE is like 7. 2, it pays a dividend yield. So if we take a look at Devon Energy, and I know a lot of people were in it earlier this year thinking, oh, energy, it's a big thing. I mean, this stock was at $53 back in April. I mean, it just got plunged and pillaged, so to speak. So here's the valuation that you can see for yourself. A 7 PE and a dividend yield that I think is something that would give investors a little kick and may start to, here's your dividend yield, over 5%. Now, if you notice short-term T-bills, they're not paying 5% anymore. What are dividend yields in T-bills now? They're getting down into the threes, the 3 handle. So as people's T-bills mature, they might start to think, oh, more further rate cuts is going to drive down Treasury yields. It may be time to circle back the wagons into equities. What would be a good low risk, high reward trade? Maybe some of these energy stocks. And that's why today we did get just a boatload of buy signals that just started to float into energy, by the way. Shell, which is another one that pays a pretty decent dividend, by the way. Its PE, its dividend is 2.5%. There's a PE price to earnings ratio, a little higher than Devon at 11, but nonetheless, British Petroleum was another one that kicked into high gear. We have Apache or APA Corporation. They changed their name to be politically correct. It generated a new fresh buy signal today on improved volume rating. So obviously it's not one stock, it's a bunch of stocks in the energy space that had gotten some bid and some new fresh buy signals on today's move. I'm sticking with Devon, also just in the hemisphere of technology. Remember, Google went down because of the antitrust Department of Justice lawsuits, and I think we're going to see that all cleared away. The volume is just too strong. The relative strength performance based on the PMC indicator, and that can be found just as well on our TradeStation as you can find it on Thinkorswim platform. So just as a reminder, if you are looking, these are some of the trades that we're looking at. Obviously, UPS fills the gap down here at the 132. Devon Energy, which we have a nice little trend. We were looking at Boeing, by the way, and I'm just as a full disclosure what we're doing. And here's one in the consumer discretionary. Maybe no one wants to buy into, but I got real strong support right at around this 52. So I'm hoping if the market does what it's been doing a lot lately, is being tricky and treacherous. This little 3-bar reversal swing low right there. 3 bars to the left, 3 bars to the right. You can clearly see that little pivot low. If the market comes back down into that zone, I start buying, and then the heavy support comes in on a trend line and also higher time frame pivot analysis. And there it is. It all intersects right here, man, right around 48 up to 55. Super strong support in Lululemon and in athletic apparel. So we're hoping to see a little more weakness, and I'd be a buyer into those names. Apart from that, I'll update you and follow up with, again, what's at stake in the markets. It does look like there's some October positioning structure going on as we start the new quarter. It's coming from some relative weakness in the MAGA 8 names. It could be at the expense of relative weakness in the Qs, and that's why we got an uptick, and the S&Ps, and that's why we got an uptick in volatility. but that doesn't mean money leaves all the market all the time. Look for bottom line, better buying opportunities at lower prices, and that's why I think we've got and stocks that make sense in this environment with Devon Energy. Boys and Brown will be busy at the holidays. Buying pullbacks in there makes sense, and I'll update you on other positions as the week progresses. I hope this information finds you well. It gives you a quick review of the condition of the overall market, and I hope to see this information serve you well. If you like what you hear, give me a thumbs up. Always love having you guys watch and put out some quality information that you can take action on. And while this is information we cover in our live trading room, and it is in our advisory service with our news service, you guys, you can always come and get a subscription trial, and we'll take care of you here at personsplanet.com. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your trading week if we don't run into each other. Have a great